S.J. Tucker, thank you so much for being here. I know you have a really busy schedule this spring with festivals and performances. And in fact, please tell our audience what you did this weekend.
Oh my gracious. Well, I had the good fortune, and first of all, thank you for having me. I had the good fortune to perform as a headliner with my band Muses on the Road at an event called Pagan Unity Festival in in Tennessee this weekend, in Central Tennessee, just a little bit to the east of Memphis, just a little bit into the long length that is Tennessee. Just one of several events that I get to do in Tennessee this year. And Saturday afternoon, they had a high tea at lunchtime. And it was costumes encouraged high tea with teacups and cupcakes that said, with little standees in them that said, "Eat me." And yes, it was in fact a Wonderland themed high tea.
Just
And I
happened to
got
be.
yeah, I got wind of this before the event, so I reached out to the organizer, said, I know we're doing the big show Saturday night. Would you like me also to come and sing for the high tea, because I might know some songs that would fit the theme? And they intimated to me that they would in fact be disappointed if I didn't come sing for the high tea. So
That's
that
the
was
right
my
answer.
rehearsal for the Lewis Carroll Society of North America appearance that I get to do now.
I love
That
it.
was my tech dress sort of for this moment that we're in.
Synchronicity. Who knew? A high tea
As
just this weekend.
man, that eclipse did some stuff. I'm telling you, all kinds of synchronicity flying around.
Nice. So I was looking over your catalog, and I don't think I've ever seen any artist with a body of work that is so obviously inspired by literature and especially fairy tales. Why do you think those stories have such an effect on you?
Thank you. They mean a lot to me. I come from storytellers. I tell everyone that if I ever write a memoir about my family one of these days, it will have to be called Raised by Peacocks. Fun fact, my grandparents' surname was Peacock. So
Oh,
it's a true story that I was raised by peacocks. I am a Cheshire Kitten shapeshifter who was raised by peacocks, which means I'm very loud and very colorful. I identify as a jewel tone goth. And so I grew up with people who could tell a story that you had heard 50 million times and still have you rolling in the floor laughing at the funny parts.
yeah.
And what is that? What is that if not a way to tell somebody who you are and where you come from? And folklore and fairy tales are absolutely a resource that we have available to us, with the proper research and respect in cases of cultures that don't belong to us, to share with each other where we came from and who we are, who our people are, what we love, what gets us going. And those are all things that matter a great deal to me as a songwriter and as a facet of sentience having an experience on this planet.
I was wondering about an Alice adjacent set of songs you have, the Wendy trilogy. What is that all about?
Thank you. I have three songs about what might have happened, and I love to do a what if. My colleagues and I refer to ourselves in our teeny tiny little indie niche, and it is so tiny, but I love it so much, as myth punks. And I did not originate this term. My dear friend, author Catherine Valenti, thought that she had originated it, and then found out that it had come from an RPG somewhere back in our recent history. But when she had a conversation with the people that had originated the term, they said, "We like the way you're using it better. Go ahead." So we refer to ourselves as myth punks because we love to grab a hold of a story and see where a what if would take us. And my Wendy songs are my big what if about Peter Pan and bringing a little more inclusivity and a little more girl power shenanigans into that mythos. And powerful things happen when you take liberties with stories and you leave canon behind. And there are some people in my life who dislike what I have done with that canon, but they hang out with me anyway. And that's goals as far as I'm concerned. But if in the original Peter and Wendy, there is a moment where Captain Hook has has our protagonist kids tied up around the mast, and he asks the boys, he asks the brothers, wouldn't they rather just be pirates? And I thought, well, what if he had included Wendy in that question? And as soon as I had that thought, the muse would not allow me to do anything else, including go eat ice cream with my friends with whom I was staying on the road at the time, until I was finished writing it all down. I was not allowed to have a life until that song was finished. So it all came out blah, 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 all at once. The first two parts all came out in one evening. And then the third part came a couple of weeks later when I was touring on my way to concerts in Nevada. And this was 2005, I believe, when I wrote those. And Cheshire Kitten came along a little bit later. That one arrived in 2008 or 2009, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I think you'll appreciate knowing that overwhelmingly, I have found that our members of the Lewis Carroll Society of North America, while they may not love every adaptation of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass that come out, they're almost all really open to just what you're talking about. Just take the characters, you know, take the base, and then just do whatever you want with them and see where it goes. And it's so exciting to see, you know, so many different versions. Yeah.
Well, the love is there, right? We wouldn't have all these permutations if we didn't love the stories themselves. And the people that you don't take liberties with a story like this unless it's one of the things that you nerd out about on a regular basis, right? If it's not written on your soul, why would you take the time? And so I love that manifestation of our love of a thing that gets us going.
That's a very good point, and that's a very good attitude for people to take, you know, even if that's not what I would have done with whatever character or whatever story. Obviously, the person loves it, the person who's doing it. So let's keep an open mind, right?
Agreed. Yeah. And I tell people this all the time. I have dear friends in my little musical world who will check themselves if one or the other of us has written a song about something that they love first. And I as quick as I can, will say, please don't you ever not write a song or a poem or a story or paint a thing because I did it first. That would destroy me. Please, please, please don't ever tell yourself that that's the way to be. We need more of this, not less of it, because somebody else got to it first.
That's amazing. That is a great attitude. As when I first reached out to you, I did say, you know, what's a field guide to Wonderland without a Cheshire Cat? I'm missing one. Can you please help me? And you graciously agreed. Yeah. Now, did the songwriting of that come out? How did you put it? Like Wendy, or was it a little slower?
Quite a bit. Yeah. I had the thought, but sometimes I'll have an idea for something and I'll just get one line written down, and then it'll take a while. It'll have to percolate a bit, whether that's in me or externally out in the world. I remember that I had one thought of what if, it was another what if. What if the original be all end all Cheshire Cat had successive generations of progeny? And what if they were not all quite so sure of themselves in their madness? What if there was an existential conversation that happened in the mind of a Cheshire Kitten, say? And so that is the song. That is where the song Cheshire Kitten comes from. And I was sitting, as I recall, if memory serves, this was 2008 or 2009, I was sitting on the sidewalk at a little patio table outside a cafe in Portland, Oregon. I spent every single summer in the Pacific Northwest and on my little tours year after year after year for a very, very long time. And I have a lot of love for the Northwest, and I haven't been back since I made a person in 2018. And my son is now 5. So that tells you how long it's been and how homesick I've been this whole time. But this particular Cheshire Kitten decided that they would finally make their appearance when I was sitting between concerts with my dear colleague Betsy Tinney, who is my favorite cellist on this planet and lives in the Seattle area and has quite the body of independent musical, mythically inspired work herself. And we had a concert we weren't leaving town yet. This was the afternoon before or after a show. I can't quite remember exactly where we were at that week in the timeline of things. But I know that we had a minute to just have some tea and sit still, which is not always the case when you're out and you're doing your self-employed hustle. Sometimes you don't get an opportunity to sit still. But in the sitting still, often, whether that's behind the wheel, which thank God's for the voice memos app, or I would have lost so many ideas over the years. When the songs and when the muse and when the genius can strike and when it can come to you, and that is exactly what happened to me. I don't remember what I wrote down first, as far as which line it was that sat with me for a bit, and then I got to finish the rest of the song later. But I remember that the heart and soul of the song came to me on that sidewalk in Portland. And ultimately the hook became, if I leave my grin behind, remind me that we're all mad here and it's okay.
I love that refrain. Yeah. Wow. So that came to you first.
Yes, and Disney has not come after me for it, so knock on wood, we're all set, because that was quite some time ago now.
Yeah, Lewis Carroll came first. You're fine.
Yeah, he did.
Have you heard of nyctographs? You just made me think of this. This is what Lewis Carroll, when you said, oh, thank God for voice memos so you don't lose any thoughts. When Lewis Carroll would wake up in the middle of the night, it was Victorian times, it's freezing, it's dark, and he was awoken by a thought, by inspiration. He didn't want to get out of bed and go find a candle or whatever, so he came up with nyctographs, which was a way that he could jot his thoughts down in the dark, and it would make sense to him later on in the morning. So just fascinating. Whoa. You just so made me think of that when he said that.
Okay. I'm so taking notes now. I should have known that I would be taking notes while we were together today. This is why I only roll with geniuses, see?
Yeah.
Because we all get to inflict our brilliant ideas on each other, and everyone is better off after that.
Or at least just relay a brilliant idea. That works as well. Absolutely. So you had that first line, and then how long did it take you to write the rest? Do you remember, Cheshire Kitty?
Well, I don't remember exactly when I had the first thought about what if there were a descendant of the Cheshire Cat who came along and perhaps wasn't as self-confident or self-assured in their madness and their brilliance and their ability to be the perfect NPC when the heroine comes along. But I know that I really like the lyrical engine, whatever that is in my brain, because I'm entirely self-taught as a songwriter. I studied creative writing. I did not study songwriting. So I'm transplanted from that, and years of musical theater and musical instruction, and then just going feral and striking out on my own and learning whatever I felt like learning after a certain point. I don't remember exactly where I was when the first thought came, but I remember being at that little bistro table and writing as fast as I could in whatever notebook I had to hand. I was like, okay, here's the song. She's coming out now. She's going to emerge now. And I am become the showerhead. And that happens to me so frequently when the lightning bolt comes, or when the stream arrives. I have to be ready, because the faucet, as long as I keep the faucet on, all I have to do is be ready to catch whatever comes. Or I have a song-shaped butterfly net in my back pocket at all times, I like to say sometimes. And either way, it was the right moment, and I was ready, and out it came. And so many more little personal references came out as part of it, like the stripes always look good on me whether or not I'm really there was a Scrooge reference, as well as a Cheshire Cat reference of being able to fade away and leave nothing but your grin. But if you lose your grin, if you lose the core of who you are, and this is where love from the neurospicy world came in for this song, and I did not see it coming, believe it or not. But having somebody to remind you not to take it so seriously if you get down on yourself, or if you have a moment where you forget who you are. And back to the Raised by Peacocks thing, those were the last words that I heard my grandfather say to me before he left this world. Or don't forget who you are.
Oh my gosh. Raised by peacocks. Wow.
Yeah, and he was absolutely a raconteur. He was the one who could tell a story that we had all heard a billion times and still have us laughing
Wonderful.
in all the right spots. So it's exactly who I get it from.
Oh my gosh. Well, Suge, which by the way, that's what her friends and fans call her, everybody, if you were wondering who's
Yes.
Suge. I could talk to you all day. You have such an amazing turn of phrase. I love it.
Thank you.
So do you have anything you want to plug though, before we hear your amazing masterpiece? Are there any upcoming appearances or any festivals that you're going to be at, or maybe an upcoming release, an album?
Yes,
Perhaps
so many things. First of all, I want to apologize for the fact that I have about eight unreleased records living rent free in my brain. I just have to find the time in meat space to finish them, and they're all concept records because I don't know how to do anything that isn't a concept album. I just have a billion ideas, and I'm rich in ideas and not so rich in time, because in addition to all of the other self-employed hustle related stuff that comes along, I now have a mama hat that I wear, and I'm chasing a 5-year-old around for part of the time. So many jobs, only one body, only so many hours in a day. But new music could happen at any moment, is what that actually means, and most of it will have a great love of folklore and myth in it, and a great love of story, and a great love of fairy tale, and a great love of these classic works that really have stuck with us for whatever reason. And the reason is love, right? It always comes down to these things inspire us, and that's why they have stood the test of time. And thank goodness we know a good thing when we see it, or when we hear it, or when we read it. I have fallen in the past decade or so to becoming an audiobook narrator and an audiobook producer from time to time. So I get to work on a new work of short stories from the place that I come from, which is the Arkansas River Delta. And it's a little bitty short story collection called The River Sisters by Denise White Parkinson, and I will be the director for that. I will not be the narrator. My colleague Ginger Doss has been commissioned to be the narrator for that. We're going to be working on that towards the end of this month, which is coming up fast, and then we'll have it released hopefully by summer solstice. And then because it's a little bitty book, but Denise put every single bit of gravitas that she could into it. And I don't find a lot of lore coming out of the Delta, and I worry that it's getting lost. And there's an institutionalized racism aspect to that as well. And there's a lot that I will not have access to because I am as paper wet as they come. But when I find the lore of other cultures, I'm going to do what I can to elevate those voices and make space for them as well, of course. I will be performing everywhere from here in Arkansas, which is where I'm based, to Tennessee, to Missouri, to Ohio later this summer. So I have a lot in the eastern-ish and central time zones coming up. Okay. If you go to sjtucker.com, that is the ultimate place to find where I am and what I am working on at all times. Patreon is there. I am in all of the streams. If you like your music where you can dip your toes into the stream, just search for my name, search for SJ Tucker Music all across the socials, all across all the streaming platforms, and you are sure to find me there. And I welcome you. I welcome you.
Wonderful. And that was going to be my next question. Get that website URL. You got to get up on the screen for everybody. All right. So thank you so much, Suge. I really enjoyed talking to you. And everyone, without further ado, let's take a listen to Cheshire Kitten.
So far, this is the only song of mine that has won an award. It also was largely instrumental, forgive the pun, in my having an initial conversation with the person I married. Big magic, I'm here to tell you. Thank you all for tuning in. I grew up seeing things a little differently, appearing, disappearing, hardly innocent, nor tied down to the ground. I learned to roll and tumble with the punches, glory in my stripes and spots, walk by invisible and never make a sound. But heavy is the crown that's always hidden. Tender is the heart you never see. Hard and fast shines the grin that we flash, but there's a vulnerable stripe or two on me. Maybe any place outside of Wonderland is not for me, my friend. If I leave my grin behind, remind me that we're all mad here, and it's okay. Sun up, sundown, the shadows hide me. Down in Wonderland, Wonderland, nobody knows the way. But if you find it in your dreams, you can find it at your day job, somewhere south of hell. Take the path to left or right with just your gut to guide you. The story is not for anyone else to tell. Go down the rabbit hole and out the other side. You can't go home in the middle of the magic carpet ride. You gotta greet the sun before his lovely daughter moon. You can't forsake the journey for the safety of your room until you learn your lesson well. Let me see your grin. I have learned to see and hear everybody loud and clear, but the truth comes down in riddles that are safe enough to share. That's how it is in songs you see, and stripes always look good on me, whether or not I'm really there. But heavy is the burden of the wise ones when no one understands a word they say. The Jabberwock never bothered anyone, but nobody believes her to this day. Hey, 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 and why should they? If I leave my grin behind, remind me that we're all mad here, and it's okay. Sun up, sundown, the shadows find me out in Wonderland, Wonderland, nobody knows the way. But if you find it in your dreams, you can find it at your day job, somewhere south of hell. Take the path to left or right with just your gut to guide you. The story is not for anyone else to tell. Go down the rabbit hole and out the other side. You can't go home in the middle of the magic carpet ride. You gotta greet the sun before his lovely daughter moon. You can't forsake the journey for the safety of your room until you learn your lesson well. Learn your lesson well. Learn your lesson well. Is it the stripes or the spots you see? Was it hearts or diamonds, baby, brought you here to me? Darling, you know better than to trust a pack of cards. What have we learned? The world is never as mad as it could be. Never as mad as it could be. If I leave my grin behind, remind me that we're all mad here, and it's okay. If I leave my grin behind, remind me that we're all mad here, and it's okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If I leave my grin behind, remind me that we're all mad here, and it's okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If I leave my grin behind, remind me that we're all mad here, and it's okay. Keep in touch. Thank you all again.
Nice. Thank you, S.J. Tucker, who is somewhere out in the woods of Tennessee at a pagan festival, I believe, right now. But I'm so glad that she could tape that for us ahead of time. I would like to thank all of you for attending. I forgot the name of the conference. This is when my brain goes dead. A Field Guide to Wonderland and Beyond. Thank you for exploring the flora and fauna of Carolian works with me. I have a few thank yous if you look at the last page of the program. My husband, Matthew Capiello, who hangs out in the next room and gives me a thumbs up whenever he hears the sound on the video, things like that. Although he did just manage to disappear to go watch the third period of the Islander game during the playoffs, don't you know? And Francisca Colt, once again, thank you for helping me plan the conference. Alan Tannenbaum, for all your help with videos. He turned around Katie McCann's presentation really quickly for me. He did not do SJ's video, and it shows. Those were my very rough edits of our long conversation. Thank you, Mark Burstein, for providing top-notch coverage of this in the night letter. Jonathan David Dixon gave us permission to sell his keepsake from last year for an add-on of $5, bargain basement prices. So please add one of those on if you didn't get one last year. And lastly, my senior common room curators for keeping me sane. And of course, all the research help from Lewis Carroll Resources. And we do have one more slideshow of some very, very important helpers. I will just pull this up and then I will see you all at social hour. Bye-bye.